You are back, Commissioner.
All right, Bannock County Commissioners are back in session. And this is a discussion regarding Public Works and the landfill and what direction we want to go and need to go. We've had discussions back and forth, whether we separate these departments, what we do and how, and what is the very best for the departments and for the county. So, Kyle, what's your opinion? What's your thoughts on direction?
We talked about this before, like when I was assistant director and stuff like that. When I was more over the landfill, we didn't see a lot of benefit at that time for it, and so we never did anything with it. If you're asking me personally, I would say, yeah, let's split it, because that takes a lot off of my mind and my plate. If for county-wise, I think you'll spend more money by splitting it, more tax dollars. And I don't see a benefit in it.
Okay, and tell me why you think we'd spend more money.
Because with, right now, you're utilizing our Public Works admin to do a lot of these things. So if you're not using them, who's gonna do it? And then if you have somebody that's gonna do it, are you gonna change wages there? So are you gonna now add a director and different positions like that to the landfill, because you don't have a director coming from Pub Works? So what are some of them monies gonna be? And then right now, 50% of my wage and 25% of Buddy's is coming out of us for doing our admin services, which is coming from the landfill, which if you're not doing that, you're going to take it out of another fund, road and bridge or wherever it's going to come out of. So yeah, it will take more money on that end.
So, two questions on that right there. So, if your admin is doing landfill work, are they being compensated out of the landfill?
For,
Salaries.
yeah.
Your admin are?
What admin are you?
Just me and Buddy.
Okay,
No.
Okay, I was taking it like your employees in your office.
Well, there is some of them
Okay.
employees, but they're not getting paid out of it. But we do everything from CDL, phone, watching the phone bills, getting the phones. There's a lot of little parts and pieces we do, but it could be done wherever.
Okay, and then you said 50% of your salary comes out of that. What percentage of your time is spent on that? And Buddies?
It depends on the day, the week.
Well, just over a year, do you actually spend 50% of your time? I'm just saying, are we honest in where we're paying people out of?
Well, and me and
Fund-wise.
Christy talked about that in our budget last year. She said, do we want to change that? And because we were barely starting to get a manager hired. And so I said, for this year, let's not change that and see how things go with bringing that one up to knowledge and what capabilities, because that position that our manager's in right now is just like any of our other managers. They should be doing all these jobs that he's currently doing for that position. So we're getting him up to that level. And so I said, I don't know if I'd change it this year, but next year, let's look at it and get it changed.
So we would, in the future planning, it was, okay, this is where we are while we're training, but we're gonna change it when we switch over. Because, I mean, if we're audited, where are the funds supposed to go, then where are they going? I mean, that's a concern that I have. But, okay, thank you.
So just to follow up on that, what would you change it to this year? If you were at 50% last year, what would you change it to this year?
With the amount that they're starting to take over and stuff like that, I don't know where I would say yours would be, but mine could be more of 25%.
Okay.
And I think it probably depends on which project we have going on too, meaning when we're doing the scale house project, we might have to focus more efforts up there than normal.
Right.
If there's something like that, but as far as normal activities, I would say I'm maybe 15%.
Because that's why I was saying it's kind of hard when we're having like all the stuff we had with that contractor and expansion and everything. I'm easily putting 50% in. I'm not standing there doing operations, but that's not my job. That's these two's job. Their operations. I'm doing the projects and the administrative end of things.
Okay. Your thoughts, buddy?
Kind of like our discussion, I can't really understand what the benefit of it would be as a taxpayer, and I'm kind of with Kyle. I mean, where's the extra money gonna go? I think you'll create some separation issues with some equipment that we, trade off. We give him a little, he gives us a little. We do have an employee, our mechanic, that's funded through there too, so I don't really know how that would work. There's some concerns, but I understand where Kyle's at too. Why wouldn't we want to do it?
So the mechanic, I mean, he could still be funded under that because that's what he's working on is their equipment.
Sure.
So that's where I'm saying, if we're audited and we have the justifications, that's no problem whatsoever there, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I talked to Christy about the mechanic, and she said that it wouldn't cause any concerns because it's funded, but it's still under road and bridge.
Yeah.
But one thing I do want to add, and I don't want to continue going the path that we've been down the last year. It's been brutal.
You do want to what?
I don't want to continue along the path that we went down the last year, not knowing who's in charge and who's doing what. It's been brutal. We need a clear direction on who's in charge and what our roles are.
Okay.
So, Kyle, I need some historical context from you, if you would. Prior to you taking the director position, you were the assistant director, and were you stationed at the landfill, or were you stationed over in the building where you're at now?
I was stationed at the landfill.
So you were up at the landfill as the assistant director, so you were at the landfill all day, every day prior to that?
Yes.
And then prior to merging the landfill, when you were the assistant director, was it separated at that point in time? Was that?
No.
Has the landfill always been under Road and Bridge?
Yes.
I was not aware of that. I thought it had been separate prior to that.
No, it's been together. The difference in when I came in as director, what I seen is it's hard to, where are we gonna benefit the most, and when I came in and I had, I kind of switched things a little bit that way, was we didn't have a lot of things getting finished in the road end of things, and then around COVID with the people moving and everything like that, I kind of talked with Commissioner Roser about like the development going on. We had like one subdivision in like 5 years, and when I was assistant director, so there wasn't a lot of like that going on, and now there's quite a bit of time going into subdivision development.
So you pulled the assistant director from the landfill over to Road and Bridge to help more with that activity. Walk me through the logic between moving the position from at landfill over
It
to-
was just, I was already up there as the manager, and it was just a spot for me. I had an office at both places. I stayed and helped up there until I went down there. The director at that time wanted to do all of his stuff, and that I just did what I was assigned to do. So I helped with bidding and stuff like that, but I still worked out of that location. It was kind of a location thing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we've added a manager position since then, which was Dylan's new position.
Right, and I'm just trying to understand, if you took Kyle, who was the manager out, and the assistant director of Road and Bridge, and then put you in there, so you're full-time up at Road and Bridge, and now we have a full-time manager there. I'm just trying to understand the history for context.
Well, and originally, year number 2 was Tyson. who come directly out of working with the vehicles there and was the shop manager, right, at that time. And now there's a shop manager and you that work on all those things still. And then I've talked with you also. I just look at the number of roads, the number of subdivisions, and everything else that we've added on to. You guys got a full-time job. I mean, just people's approaches has got to be taking a lot of time that you wasn't spending before.
Well, and that's what we looked at when we discontinued having a county engineer. I took all that, at least half of that work on when we don't have an engineer now.
Right.
So all plan reviews and all the different things like that we were having engineering on, now we're doing. So that did. And in the past, we've really cut resources going, because we had, for the landfill, you had time of engineering. We had engineering and training and EIT. We had an engineer, a professional engineer, with part of their wages going to landfill and to road and bridge. We had environmental. We cut all these positions, and we're kind of working off of a pretty limited for all the departments out there. So we've took on more roles and tried to.
We've taken on more trash.
Yeah, we've taken on. Goes through the whole county. I mean, it's more roads, it's more trash, it's more license plates, it's more of everything. And I mean, I've looked at 20 years back, and we have like one less employee than we had 20 years ago in just these departments. So in 20 years, if you had $1 million to fix roads and we still have $1 million, it's kind of hard to do that. And it's the same thing with, we're utilizing the same amount of employees for the last 20 years, and our waste and everything's went. So yeah, we're all pretty busy and bare boned.
Okay, Dylan?
You know, I think that these guys do have some valid points that are worth considering for sure. I do think that it would be a good thing for Bannock County, though. I think that it would give a little more over-the-top look for each department versus trying to disseminate through multiple layers, coming back to you guys. I think the communication factor, and I think we'd be a little bit more flexible and agile for making quick decisions and staying on top of things a little bit faster.
Kyle Frost, Assistant Operations Manager up there at the landfill. You know, I feel like we've got a good team up there. We've got good working relationships between us and Public Works. Whichever way the commission decides to go, I will be in full support of.
John?
Kyle, tell me, if we were to split it, what is the benefit to the county if this is separate? What do you see would be the benefit, and then what would be the detriment if we split it?
Well, and I'm kind of curious on how that makes it a quicker communication, because right now we're using a lot of forces to help with that communication. So you're still going through steps. So I guess one of my concerns is do we have chief of staff going to be over the landfill helping with that communication the whole time? Or is it going to be up to management that's there? I don't know how we're getting things quicker, because I won't bring that up today, but of all the things that I see that are getting dropped off right now, without my help, I don't see that being a quicker thing. I see you're gonna fall behind.
What are all the things you see being dropped off? Since I've been brought into it, I'm just kind of
Okay.
curious too.
Scale house, what are we doing with it?
What are we doing with it? I don't know.
You're the one that's talking with him.
You're
not
acting
me.
like I'm the manager of the landfill, and I don't know at what point I became the manager of the landfill. So I was
Okay,
curious.
okay, we're not gonna go here.
Let me continue with my questions, because my question's still there. What if, is there a benefit in your mind to separating this, and if so, what is it?
If you can have more support, and I think all these departments need as much as they can, if there can be somebody that's just totally looking at the well-being of the landfill and stuff like that, same with roads and everything, that can be a benefit. There can be more time spent in any of these. I think if that's more people or whatever it is.
I don't see how there would be any difference at all in the.
Well, that's where I'm at, is, I mean, we still have the same amount of employees, so that's where I'm saying with who are we gonna bring in, is where are you gaining more of communication, going out to the cities, going out to, I guess I'm trying to figure out where are you getting all that.
My question is this, and then maybe the answer is you don't see a benefit. That could be the answer. But my question is, if we split it, how is the county going to benefit from this? And so we're having these discussions about communications and maybe more direct, maybe people more focused on a particular area, but I don't know why that would change if we split this apart. And there is a cost to the county. I think you were correct. Whether it's 50% or 25%, there's a cost to the taxpayer if we split this up. So I know there's costs, but I've yet to hear something that really tells me, yeah, there's a clear benefit to do this. And so do you see a strong benefit or not?
I don't necessarily. I mean,
Okay.
like I say, for me, it would be a personal benefit to me with my
Gotcha.
time.
Not for the county, though. And Dylan, let me ask you the same question. You've said that you think your communication would be better, I think, right?
Hmm?
How? How would that be better?
Just trying to keep everybody in the loop. I'm sure that everybody has kind of that same feeling of who do I need to inform, how quickly do they need their information, that kind of thing. So I'm trying to pass between different departments and different ideas. And, these guys are super busy, so they can be hard to get a hold of. And sorry, go ahead.
Well, who are the different groups you're trying to get information to? Because you work for Kyle,
Right.
I think, right?
Mhm.
So it seems to me that would be your direct report. If we split it, you're going to have a different direct report.
Mhm.
So I don't see any difference.
Well, down through the staff, we're making changes on things. It's just one of those things for me. If you can, instead of communicating with multiple different groups of people, if you can kind of consolidate that down.
You're communicating with Kyle, I assume. Is that correct? Are you
Kyle,
communicating with other people besides your boss?
Yeah, staff, and we have.
Well, that's not going to
engineers on
change,
site,
though.
and-
I'm talking about communication upward, right?
Mhm.
Is there a change in
No.
time?
I guess not with that one, no.
And is there any other significant benefit for the county taxpayers that you can tell me if we were to split this?
Not sure, I guess.
Okay.
Jeff?
So Kyle, you said it would be a personal benefit to you to have more time to focus on road and bridge projects and some things you and I have talked about, that big vision and big picture. So wouldn't that be a taxpayer benefit to have you focusing on that and moving things along maybe more efficiently, like we talked about yesterday, the new system and taking over fleet management, things like that?
Yeah. Yeah, it would give me more time for other county functions and stuff like that. Yeah, it would. The thing that I look at is I have a manager over shop, I have a manager over roads. People have been in, I had the baby boomers all move out, I have full new staff. I have a new guy in roads, so that's gonna take some of my time for something like that. So should we separate and make a road and bridge department, because it's taken more of my time. My time goes back and forth on who needs it at the moment. So it could be really emphasized on landfill, or it can be on, that's kind of what my position is I'm going to help whichever staff's needing it at the time. But anything of taking any workload, yeah, is gonna save me more time, so.
So buddy, I'm curious, when you said there's no benefit, tell me why you were so adamant that there is no benefit of making that switch.
I don't see how there would be any benefit for it. I mean, what would we gain? I think if communication went the right direction, you'd get all the communication that you needed. And that's why I say I don't see how there would be, there's no benefit in my mind that you'd be gaining from it.
Okay, so you still didn't really answer my question, because communication isn't necessarily a benefit or a reason to do or not to do. So if we can free up, and you said your time is now dropping from 30% down to 15% is what you're estimating.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you gonna do with that additional 15% of your time, or an additional 30% of your time? What does that free you up to do?
Well, we've added the grooming board last year, which is easily 15% of my time, and then now fleet management.
So isn't that, that's a direct benefit to splitting this off, so you don't have to spend 15 to 30% up there. It's a benefit or not? If I free up some of your time, is that a benefit, yes or no?
It benefits me, sure, yeah.
So then it ultimately benefits the county, because we get better supervision over the things that you're talking about and the new projects that you're talking about. Same with you, Kyle, right? If we free up 30% or more of your time, that's a benefit to the county, because we get better leadership and direction over these new projects and the new areas that we're looking to do. So that is a direct benefit.
But is it a benefit when chief of staff can spend more time in
We're not
different
going there.
areas?
We're not going there. I'm just asking for, John asked the question, is there a benefit to the taxpayer? And the benefit to the taxpayer would be, you guys get to focus more on fleet management, which we've already talked about in the budget cycle this year is $1 million project to take care of some of that. All the new roads, you had to pick up some of the duties that the engineer that we don't have anymore has to do. So that frees you up for that. So that is a direct benefit. The communication thing, that's a leadership thing that we can fix somewhere else. So I'm just trying to understand.
Well, I think he just brought up the communication thing, because that's what was presented to us, that better communication. So we'd like the same thing, better communication. So we're kind of in that same boat there, as things will speed up with communication.
Right.
I would agree with Commissioner Huff in that I don't think communication is a reason to split this out. I don't think that's a factor. The factor is, does it benefit the Bannock County taxpayer to do this, or does it not? And so, Dylan, let me ask you this. So they talked about, okay, they're still putting a significant amount of time into some support for you guys up there. So that means, so if they're out of it, that means you're absorbing all of that. Do you have the capability to absorb the things that they're doing?
Yeah, I think I do.
So you have time on your hands to do that?
Well, I think it's just through efficiencies. I wouldn't say that I've got an overabundance of time, but I think that there are certain things that I can push off. Have Chris do a little bit more of the generator side of things. I can have him do some more of the equipment side of things versus running everything through Buddy in the shop to get things fixed. I think we can come up with some efficiencies through working with Caterpillar, some things like that.
Do you know all the things that these two are doing that support the land? Are you familiar with everything they're doing?
I think so.
And the amount of time it takes to do these various things. So, Kyle, what are you talked about some of the admin roles? What are some of the admin things that you were doing specifically for the landfill?
Budget is a big one. Projects.
How much time does budget take?
Projects. I mean, you're always working on it, because you're working on $1 million jobs, and so to keep them current, moving, proceeding, it's going to take some time. Environmental, we've been sliding some of that, and they're taking. That's what my goal is, whether it's roads or landfill, is to get my managers up to a certain level that they're doing all of that operation. My goal is to make my assistant be able to do my job. But I guess what I'm saying is, I guess maybe in the past why people hold their things close to their chest, I've worked for people that do that. Now I guess I understand why, because the more I help, the more they want to come around and say, well, I can do it better, or let's cut out somebody. And I don't know, and that's where I'm at, is I don't know if that's a benefit or not.
Let me ask another question. You mentioned projects. What are some of the specific projects that you do on behalf of landfill?
So some of the projects they got going on right now are, we have gas system expansion, whether we're gonna do wells or this or that, and how the gas system is going. Remediation is a $2 million ticket that's,
How much time do you put into remediation?
it depends. I don't know, like I say, some days it's kind of like when you guys come to work, you don't know what direction you're gonna kind of go. You start getting calls, you have somebody come in, you kind of head in a different direction, but I do a lot of calls to the engineers directly, me and them, talking over things. Besides some of the meetings they do, I've already talked to them in calls that I do with them, just in communication.
Other projects?
Scale house, one of my concerns with the scale house is we have to move things fast and to be more efficient. Like they've said, where we're at right now is, to me, I have moved it forward to where we're trying to figure out budget and everything like that. We've had, and since early in the winter, of trying to get this ready to go. This should have been being worked out through the summer, getting work done, and then we would have been budgeted, and we would have been to the part that we budget for what's left for the next year. And we haven't really kind of went any there. I mean, some of these things you can push off, but some of them you're gonna have to make them decisions.
So you've got the budget, you've got gas and energy, you've got the remediation,
Expansion,
the scale house. These are all things that you're contributing currently toward the operation of the landfill with your time. And so that seems like a lot of things that you're talking about absorbing. And can you absorb that without increasing your head count?
Yeah, I think I can.
So, I'm gonna go right to the elephant in the room. There's conflicts. And I don't want this to be about conflicts. I want this to be about what's best for the county. And that's why when you say it's personal here, and it's personal here. And I've talked to all of you, and I've said that the problem up there right now, or with the county, is that we have the ability to blame each other. And we've witnessed it right here in the room just now, a little bit. And so we either gotta come to a conclusion of how we're gonna work together or separate this out. And the conclusion has to be pretty blunt. And I don't want to, I'm not naming names, and we're not able to go into executive session and stuff, but it's time to put on the big boy pants and work together for the good of the county, 100%. And so taking personal feelings about each other or anybody else in the room or anybody else in the county, the decision has to be made. If we separate this, like John just said, you have the ability to take these things over. Well, in part of my mind, I think that that's a good way to go. Because instead of Kyle, who has 100 other things that he can and should be doing, that puts it on your shoulders. And we come directly to you. Are you the one that's been talking to the engineer? Are you the one that, where is the scale? I mean, that's the problem, is that we're blaming each other for things. And so I want to just get it plain and simple where we're at and separate this out, or say this is the direction and the line of authority, and we don't waver from that. But honestly, it still comes down that we've added a lot to your plate. There's a lot of things going up there. You used to be the director up there. You have a lot of knowledge and understanding and buy-in. But you're not the director up there anymore. I mean, somebody else needs to be reporting to you, or they need to be reporting directly to the commission so that we stay on top of all these projects that are out there. I mean, the scale. Commissioner Tubby, he's been gone for a year and a half, and he's the one that initiated the scale deal. I mean, he started talking about that when I was first come in 5 years ago. So that's what I'm saying. We gotta do something, because what we've been doing isn't working correctly. So, any thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah. So, some of this is a bit new to me as far as understanding what are the issues going on here. And so, of course, most of my questions were focused on
Budget.
what's the efficiency going to be, what's the cost, what's the benefit to the taxpayer, and so on. This is a different issue, because now we're getting back to, it sounds like communication issues
Well,
and authority issues.
authority and responsibility,
So
taking ownership.
I personally, right now, I'm not seeing the benefit that I would be looking to split this up, because maybe there's some communication or line of authority problems. I think that's something that, as adults, we need to work out. We need to clearly establish what the line of authority is, what the communications are gonna be. I don't think it requires making a major change with how the county is organized. I think you guys need to get together and get that figured out. You say that you can absorb all this stuff. I'm not confident. That's a lot of stuff at this point. Maybe down the line, but I'm not confident right now. And I personally think we need to get this accountability, authority, communications issues worked on currently. And then down the line, maybe we can look at, is there really a benefit to making a shift in how the county is organized? But I think having the landfill report directly to the commissioners, I don't see that being a benefit when we've got a guy with a lot of expertise who they can report to right now.
Jeff?
I'm still thinking for a minute.
No problem. That's why we have this.
Can I say something? So I'd say, as far as like daily operations stuff, I've stepped up quite a bit in that role. I feel like Dylan's taken more of the administrative office role in the last few months. I mean, he used to spend probably 50% of his time on the hill, and we're lucky to get 20-25% out of him these days. I've got
Just it all.
well, just on the hill, I mean, we've got 2 seniors up there that have really stepped up in the last little while and taken on some more responsibility, even more than what I could expect from them, really. I mean, we've had some turnover, but we do have some pretty promising staff members that have just started for us that really want to be up there, and I feel like we're headed in a positive direction as far as that goes. So,
Okay, thank you.
Well, and Kyle and I visited yesterday a little bit, and we talked about this 2 or 3 times. And I think there comes a point in time when, you know, you gotta put up or shut up and deal with the consequences of that. And we have talented leaders. Buddy, you're one of those young talented leaders that's coming up. Dylan, you're one of those young talented leaders that's coming up. And so I'm thinking maybe this is the time to say, Dylan, time to put up or shut up, and give you the chance to fly. And if it works, great. If not, well, then we'll suffer those consequences. Kyle, you've been gone for a year or more up there, and Dylan's been running it, and so far the wheels haven't completely come off the wagon. And maybe that's some of your
No, I think
leadership
he's doing good.
maybe that's some of your leadership and guidance helping that stay. So to me, I think with the direction that we want you guys to go with fleet management, some of the road stuff you got going that you expressed with the engineering, maybe let's separate it out, see what happens. Because again, I don't see a downside to doing that. I don't right now. And again, I point to my young leaders coming up. They're doing a tremendous job. So, all right, let's roll with it. Let's try something different. I see the risk being minimal at this point in time.
A question I have for you, Jeff, is just the compensation stuff that we've been working on in that group. And if Road and Bridge absorbs that cost from him and I's wages, is that something we're still gonna be able to respond? Because that's something that does keep me up at night. We need to.
Well, you're already talking about shifting some of the costs, a pretty substantial amount, because you already said you're gonna take yours down and Kyle's down this year, so
Yeah.
we're already making that shift. So I would think that we can find a way to make that happen without
Okay.
suffering the budget
Yeah.
at all. I don't think your budget would change.
That's just a concern I have.
And that's a valid concern, and you and I have been in those discussions, so you know where we're at,
Yeah.
the direction we're traveling.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll just tell you that we've talked about this for quite a while. I mean, and that's why everybody's been up in the air. And I apologize for that. We shouldn't have discussions without moving forward at a quicker pace. And so I would say that we, or myself, or as a commission, I apologize to you for that. But before we make a decision on this, I want to talk to Christie. And I want to see the financial ends of it. And see exactly the dollars that we're talking about. And so that as I make that decision, that you guys, you said you've talked to her some and stuff, but I need to, as a commissioner, I need to have those numbers myself. I don't know if you've talked or if you've talked to Christie about the numbers and stuff.
Maybe just briefly, but not in any significant detail.
But like John said, this is a big change and a big decision.
And I talked to Christie about the numbers a little while back, and she felt like it could work, but we didn't talk specifics and specific dollar amounts, so I don't know what those numbers are either.
So I'll just make a commitment that I'll talk to her within the next week, and then we'll schedule a discussion to make a decision. But feel free to talk to us more. But in the meantime, let's make this a little better between departments or within departments. As has been stated, Kyle is the department head here. Things need to go up and through him, whether it's Buddy or you or whoever's over whatever department. That is the line of authority. And we need to make sure that we're following up through that. Anything else?
Nope.